Man, I'm tired. Randall let out a sigh, hands clasping behind his head as he gazed up at the ceiling. We were lounging on the sofa in the now empty living room, which seemed bizarrely quiet. After the commotion eventually calmed down, the group went off for a ride around the beach, but when they invited Randall, he graciously declined, telling them he wanted to stay behind with me for a bit. But now that we were alone, Randall didn't seem in any hurry to speak. As the crowd dissipated, he'd quickly mellowed out, and the violent energy he'd been channeling earlier had all but completely faded. You okay, kid? He finally turned towards me, raising a soft question. You didn't get spooked or anything, right, being around so many angry vampires? It was a little bit scary. They seemed ready to rip the place apart. Yeah, that's the tough part, and it's why I'm here. Someone's got to be an outlet or a channel for it, someone who relates to them and understands them. I absorb all of that, and it keeps them from burning down the hotel and whatever other shit. But with tensions as high as they are right now, it won't be long before another fight breaks out. He didn't sound as eager about the prospect as I'd expected. You know, sometimes I just feel kinda, I don't know, uneasy. Not about what we're doing, but about what's gonna happen to, well, Queen Bitch of all people. Randall heaved a long sigh, draping an arm over the back of the couch as he turned to face me more fully. Now don't get me wrong, I can't stand to fucking look at her with her stick-in-the-ass walk, her goddamn designer shoes, that way she peers at you, all fucking holier-than-thou over her glasses, ugh. But I don't want to kill Charisse. I don't want to kill anyone if I can avoid it. Randall's voice dropped to a deep, gravelly murmur. As our eyes met, I saw a strange somberness in his gaze, something that didn't fit with his normal persona. If I had my way, she'd step down peacefully, no one would need to die, and LA could be a free city for vampires. And deep down, that's still what I'm hoping for. There's still time for you to work things out with Charisse. I wish it was that easy, Valkii. I've tried, she's tried, neither of us really want this to go on. But our camps are just so far apart. It feels like they're unhappy with any compromise we come up with. We're only just as strong as our groups make us. If we lose their support, then we're both as good as dead. And the ones who'd step up to take our places, well, I'm just gonna say they're a lot more extreme than we are. Randall sounded a little heartbroken despite the faint attempt at humor he forced into his voice. It reminded me of a desolate parent or lover, frustrated out of care and worry, resigned to a certain helplessness. A lot of my clan, they want to see someone's blood get spilled. It's not that they're bad people either. Most of the time they're great, the best family a guy could ever ask for, always ready to protect you and love you through whatever it is you're going through. We've got every type of person, different as a rainbow, but brought together by what they believe in. It's one of those things that makes you happy just seeing it. But sometimes I feel like they just want destruction. Very briefly, I thought I heard something unusual flicker through Randall's tone, but it was so subtle that I lost it right after. When they get worked up, when everyone's shouting and pissed off, they really believe they're doing the right thing by tearing apart the enemy. I think it comes from a good place, you know? They want to defend the ones they care about. We all do. It's just, they don't understand that blind rage sometimes makes things so much worse. But they seem to really love you, can't you change their mind? Yeah, but they keep putting me on a pedestal, like I'm some kind of god or holy leader, but I'm not. I never wanted to be. You know why? Because people will always put words in their god's mouth, twist them around to suit their needs, even if he's saying something completely different. While Randall was talking, his fingers had wandered to a pen lying between us on the cushions. He plucked it up, beginning to idly scribble on the back of his hand, where a twisted figure slowly formed across his knuckles. I just wanted to help them. That's the whole reason why people started coming to me in the first place. The poor, the weak, the outcasts. I've been there. I know what it feels like to feel worthless. So when I came to LA and ranted at vampire haunts about the status quo and why we needed change, people listened. A wistful smile flickered on his lips, as faint as a candle in the wind. For a while, everything seemed like it was getting better. They stopped living for others and started living for their own lives, because I helped them understand it was all right. And then at some point, they started to forget what freedom really meant. They wanted everyone else outside of our clans to see things the same way. Anyone who didn't was an enemy, someone who was hurting us even if they never meant to. That's why they think Charisse should die. Closing his eyes, Randall let go of the pen and sunk back against the couch, his face tilted up to the ceiling. Without his chest moving to breathe, he looked as still and lifeless as a corpse. but after a moment his eyelids flickered open and he glanced back towards me. Do you see any way out of all of this? Not yet, but I believe things will work out somehow. Ha, see we've got a real idealist over here. Hang on to that optimism, kid, you're gonna need it. He let out a dry laugh, but a little bit of light returned to his eyes. Ah shit, I'm sorry Valkii. Didn't mean to start rambling about society, but it's your own damn fault for being a good listener. Maybe I should become a vampire sociologist. Sure, I bet you'd be good at it. You seem like a smart girl, I mean obviously because you're hanging out with me. This time he offered one of his low, thunderous laughs, the genuine kind that came from deep in his chest. Soon, though, his grin shifted to a more thoughtful look. As he studied my face, he seemed to hesitate for a few seconds, scratching at the side of his cheek. But just as he opened his mouth again to speak, "Hey, Randall." At that moment, the front door suddenly burst open. "We're going for another short ride by the pier. Are you ready?" Marla called out eagerly, beaming at Randall. "Yeah, I'll be right there." "Sweet, come meet us in the back." The door slammed shut behind her and a few hollers echoed faintly from outside. I wasn't really feeling it tonight, but I guess I better go keep an eye on him. With a loud groan, Randall slowly pushed himself to his feet, running his tongue across his fangs. Then he offered a hand down to me, his bandaged palm reaching forward. Take his hand, why not? With his powerful grip, he clasped my hand and easily tugged me up to my feet. Well, I don't want to seem like I'm kicking you out again or anything, maybe kind of gently nudging you out since the sun will be rising soon and all. But hey, I'm going to call you up again in a few days, okay? This whole mentor thing or whatever, I'm starting to take it pretty seriously, so I gotta find another learning experience for you. Well, you've done a great job so far. Are you being sarcastic? No, that was genuine. Seriously. Then shit, maybe we should just go drinking and talking politics every night. We walked out beneath the night sky together, where a plane was distantly droning by overhead. From behind the house, I heard the sound of laughter and revving engines. Randall's group was waiting for him, no doubt. Get home safely, Valkii. As Randall and I stepped off the porch, he turned to offer me a small, unusually gentle smile. Oh, and give Queen Bitch my regards, okay? I'm sure she'll be just delighted. Good night, Randall. Night, Valkii. He slowly waved at me until I was out of sight. What a sweetie. But as I left the moonlit beach behind, heading back into the glittering city lights, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had glimpsed something different in Randall. I couldn't put a name to it yet, but as I followed him deeper into the Mavar's chaotic world, what else would start rising to the surface? I mean, I think what we're catching on to is that he doesn't really believe in himself very much. Doesn't want to be a leader. My eyes fluttered open. I felt like I'd been having an intense dream, but as soon as I tried to remember it, the image faded away. But more importantly, there was a gnawing, awful ache in my gut. Hunger pangs had woken me up again, apparently. Charisse was probably expecting a report on Alusha today, so I needed to pay the club a visit. But I had to feed first. Even as a vampire, breakfast was obviously still the most important meal of the day. Go drink from a human. I decided to leave the hotel first, figuring I could drink from a mortal as I walked to the abattoir. It was, essentially, the vampiric equivalent of grabbing fast food on my way to work. After a short search, I found a wealthy-looking businessman chatting on his fancy mobile phone in the alley, probably about some shady deal. When I pounced and sank my fangs into him, his phone clattered to the ground, but his moans were definitely loud enough for the other person on the line to hear. That would make for a fun conversation later. Afterwards, I continued on my way, now comfortably full. The pleasant sensation filled me with so much energy that I decided to walk to the club, gliding through the night. The abattoir looked just like it had during my last visit, only less crowded. Plenty of people still slithered around, grinding on each other and making out in dark corners, but it looked like I was too early for peak hours. Still, setting foot back here brought back a torrent of memories from that night. I came here without a clue that I'd soon be stepping into another world. Yet now, instead of being overwhelmed by all the human and inhuman predators hiding in plain sight, it almost felt like I was becoming one of them. Hey there, darling. A tap at my shoulder followed the sultry voice in my ear, jolting me out of my thoughts. I turned to see a woman confidently smirking up at me, her head tilted coyly to one side. Oh, sorry if I startled you. Bit hard to get people's attention over the music, though. Pleasure to meet you, beautiful. A charmer, I see, real or fake. Compliments are always nice to hear. Pleasure's all mine. It's not every day someone sweet and good-looking walks in here. The girl fired out her response like a machine gun spray, speaking so fast I could barely keep track of what she'd said. She wasn't overly energetic. In fact, her posture reminded me of a languid cat, but it was as if her thoughts flowed directly to her mouth, coming out in a constant stream. Anyway, I know what you are. I've met enough vampires to pick them out in a crowd by now. Oh really? What makes you think I'm a vampire? She raised her hand to her mouth, stifling a snicker. There's no need to play coy, darling. I was the favourite pet of one until recently, and she taught me how to keep a secret. Oh, that's right, introductions. No wonder you were looking at me all confused. I'm Alucia, one of the managers of this little playpen. And you are? I'm Valkii, but you can call me whatever your heart desires. Anything my heart desires, you say? I'll have to think up something special just for you then. Valkii, well, I'm just tickled to meet you, Valkii. And I really, truly want to get to know you better. But first, could you do little old me a favour? A favour? Of course, just name it. You see, there's this Mavar hanging around the bar, sweet boy most of the time, but tonight he's making a bit of a fuss. He and his group are, well, provoking some of the other vampires, trying to argue with them, stirring up house rivalry. I'm all about free speech, but my club is supposed to be neutral ground, you see, so it's not the type of thing I want going on. I'm just gonna look at my stats. Okay, I'm, good with the Mavar. I'll try and make everyone else like me here if I can. Could you be a dear and intervene before anything nasty happens? Sure, I'll do my best. I'm sure your best is plenty, darling. Good luck. Oh wait, I never even look at my personality. So I'm very diplomatic. I'm more on the reserved side than determined, but only a little bit. And I'm more human-like than vampiric. Okay. With a cheerful grin, Alucia gently shooed me towards the bar, pointing to a gathering of figures by the edge. There were quite a few of them, so fighting probably wasn't the smartest idea. I approached a little cautiously, trying to overhear what they were talking about. How can you even go along with that? Don't you see who's controlling you? You might be afraid to talk to your leader, but I'm not. One of the Mavar growled out accusingly, his eyes full of passionate anger. He looked vaguely familiar. I must have seen him at the beach house with Randall. I like plenty of Golgotha, but if you support that kind of guy, you need to take another look at yourself. You know what I'm saying is true, don't you? Some of the others at the bar averted their gazes, obviously not wanting to be pulled into the conflict. And you, Ascari, you know Charisse is no different. Turning new vampires just to have more soldiers for her cause. It's fucking disgusting. Nick's right, it really is disgusting. Yeah, and Randall, he'd never do something like that. Mutters of agreement rose from the group behind the man. Nick. The bartender spoke up hesitantly, but the Mavar, whose name was Nick by the sound of it, kept going. And now that she's showing her true colours, you still won't join us? It's not even about politics, it's about doing what's right. When our eyes met, Nick paused, doing a double take at me. Oh damn. Aren't you the new girl, the one who just got turned? That's me, yes. Thought so. I saw you around before, I'm pretty sure. As Nick's focus settled on me, I noticed a few other looks thrown my way. Surprised, curious, wary, like they were all busy deciding whose side I was on. Hey, you're a Mavar too, right? You heard what I said back there. I've been trying to get any of these Ascari or Ghouls to stand up for themselves, tell me why I should stand for the shit their leaders want to pull on us. Laws about whether we can act like vampires or not, killing people who step out of line, forcing everyone to keep their mouths shut. Sometimes it feels like Mavar are the only vampires who care about our freedom. I think we all care. People just have different ideas of freedom. Yeah, that's right, but actions speak louder than words. If we don't stand up for our beliefs now, what happens when Charisse keeps putting more and more rules on us, when we can't even speak our minds anymore? He let out a passionate sigh, ruffling the back of his shaggy hair. I'm not here to stir up trouble just for the hell of it, but sometimes you gotta push a situation to get any results. This is a coven, we're like an organism. Everything affects everything else. And you're a part of it now, Valkii. You understand that, right? I've got myself to worry about, and that's plenty, thanks. He sighed, shaking his head in disappointment. Don't know why I even wasted my time. I should have known Charisse already brainwashed you. This conversation always, bugged me, because any of the responses, it doesn't really seem like they should get angry at any of it. I don't know. Come on, guys, let's get out of here. Motioning to the rest of the group, Nick stalked off towards the exit. As the Mavar followed after him, some of them shot me dirty looks. Obviously, they hadn't thought much of my reply. But the Ascari and Golgotha nodded at me gratefully, going back to their drinks in peace. So let me have a look. Or not. Oops, I missed something. I don't even think that did anything. Leaving the bar behind, I wandered back through the dance floor, searching for Alusha. Soon I spotted her standing by the wall, chatting with a man in something very close to a gimp suit. She quickly waved him off as I moved closer, welcoming me with a bright smile. Seems like your diplomacy did the trick, darling. Very nice. Now that you've taken care of that nasty business, why don't you tell me what you really came here to say? I'm all ears. She leaned in close enough to comfortably talk without shouting over the music, and I caught a whiff of rosy perfume. Charisse Locke wants you to report the club happenings to her. Charisse? Oh right, Charisse. Yes, my mistress always called her Queen Bitch, like Randall seems so fond of doing. So Locke wants to know what happens around the club, is that it? It's true, a lot of your folk come in here, usually looking for a quick bite. She has good timing. A week ago, I wouldn't have been able to say yes. My mistress Jackie, she hated Locke, thought she was the devil in a dress. But then she disappeared. I haven't seen her since, so I assume she's dead. No need to shed any tears for me. I didn't much like her anyway, but she did leave me in a tight spot. Alusha had to pause for breath, so I took the rare opportunity to say something. Are you in a tight spot? Why? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Alusha winked coyly at me, twirling one strand of hair around a finger. Well, the truth is, the delightful feeling of being fed upon can easily start to get a little addictive. In fact, the only reason I stuck around my mistress for so long was because I needed my fix, so to speak. It's been quite awful without it, you've no idea. So I need someone to take a bit of blood from me every now and then, no strings attached. Just a win-win for giver and taker. And you know, my mistress was a Mavar, just like you. Her personality was just awful, but that fiery passion had me completely hooked. It didn't take a genius to see what she was getting at. Well, want me to take care of you? Would you really? Oh, I'd be so grateful. Gasping in delight, she stood on her tiptoes to deliver a light kiss to my cheek. Here's my card. Call me whenever you please, and I'll be over to the hotel in seconds flat. Oh, and if you ever need anything more from me, just ask, darling. The juiciest gossip, pulling strings, or maybe you'd like to pull my strings sometime. Why not? It's like you read my mind. Our next meeting will be fun, no doubt about it. Oh, I can't wait. Another chance to study fascinating vampire anatomy. She beamed at me in delight, clearly thrilled by the new arrangement. Ah, before I forget about the deal, Hollywood Heights is her headquarters, right? I'll give her a call tonight, see about setting up that little agreement. But for now, I need to be getting back to work, I'm afraid. Come by again as soon as you can. Thanks again for everything. You've got a real pluckiness to you. I bet you're going to go far one day. You're right about that much. See ya. Alusha blew a kiss at me before turning around, sauntering back towards the Mavar Free Bar. And with that, my job was finished. After worming my way past a few unwanted admirers, I managed to slip out of the club. With still plenty of time before sunrise, I could visit a few places tonight if I could just find a taxi to flag down. The main streets were already flocking with people. I turned the corner to a more quiet road, about to hail an oncoming cab, when my senses suddenly prickled. Someone was watching me. I don't know if we're about to get night 2. Okay, I quickly glanced from left to right, trying to make out any shapes in the shadows. Yet even with my sharpened eyes, I saw nothing. Maybe it was just my imagination. Do excuse me, but might I have a moment of your time? A figure emerged from the alley behind me, tipping his hat in greeting. There was no mistaking that hat and delighted smirk. He had to be the same Golgotha from the parking garage. Can I help you? No, but I think I may be of some help to you. Oh, but before all that, let me tell you my name. I'm Zhang. No doubt you remember me from that unpleasant little scene with the Mavar. It must have left an awful first impression. Frowning, Zhang clicked his tongue and ruefully shook his head. The gesture looked much too overstated to be serious. Well, I'm simply dropping by to deliver a small message, courtesy of my master. Very convenient I should find you here. Oh, I'm listening. You see, my master wishes to extend an invitation. He wants to meet the latest vampire riding a tide of rumors around Hollywood. Really, I didn't know I was getting a reputation. Zhang leered at me silently for a moment, rocking back and forth on his toes. After word spread about your partnership with Miss Locke, your disruption of our meeting with the Mavar, your association with various powerful vampires, well, one rarely sees a novitiate with such an exciting start. It was only a matter of time before you attracted attention. Especially my master's. He stressed the first word pointedly, holding the second syllable long enough for his fangs to stick out and shine. I'd really like to meet this mysterious master of yours. Oh, splendid. Whenever you're ready to meet him, just wander towards Holyfield Cemetery and head for the mausoleum. Oh, and please, don't bring any guests. I see, he lives in the mausoleum. Yes, well, something along those lines. Zhang shrugged nonchalantly, glancing to the side. My master just enjoys the charming requiescence that the cemetery provides, you see. Oh, and it also has a delightful view. With another light chuckle, the man offered me a small bow, adjusting his tie with one hand. Please do consider his invitation. I have no doubt you will appreciate it. Now, have a fantastic night, Valkii. Thanks, same to you. He bowed again, this time more deeply, before slipping back towards the alley. His presence seemed to fade away almost instantly. Maybe some kind of trick, or else something more sinister. Only time would tell, or maybe nothing would. After Zhang left, I managed to hail a cab, quickly hopping inside. I decided to travel somewhere, of course, and we are going... Let's visit Saturnalia first. I headed for Saturnalia, wondering if Heath would be around tonight. I'm not really wondering that, sadly. Because I don't think he is around tonight anyway. Inside the bar was calm and fairly quiet, with only a few vampires lounging around. I glanced around for Heath, but I didn't spot him anywhere. Maybe he'd stepped out for a while. I began to roam around the bar and drift into conversations, mingling with the various vampire patrons. Tonight's crowd seemed to be mostly Golgotha, and they treated me with a mixture of interest and suspicion whenever I approached. I decided to... Oh, what do I need to do? Do my best to charm them. Mustering all of my charisma, I wandered up to the various groups of Golgotha, hoping I could win them over. They seemed suspicious of my intentions at first, but eventually some of the vampires warmed up to me, offering their unusual insights. Not all of them were friendly, but most were willing to at least exchange a few words with me, even if it was mostly from politeness. And honestly, that sumo wrestler was amazing. It was like biting into mochi or pizza dough or something, so soft and squishy. That's disgusting, Paulson. You need professional help. As I drifted by the last group of Golgotha in the corner, I heard them engaged in a passionate argument. Hey, you with the blue hair. One of them suddenly raised her voice, snapping her fingers and pointing at me. You're going to be the tiebreaker, okay? Quick, what's the best body type to feed from? Let's use one we haven't done yet. I enjoy thin, lithe ones, not so much flesh to bite through. Aw, but why? Because some of us don't have giant fangs that can go through 8 inches of fat. Yeah, well, some of us don't like sucking on our anorexic juice packs either. They start... Wait, was that fine to say? Yeah, it was. They started grumbling at each other again, apparently forgetting my existence. And with that, I'd more or less passed by every group that seemed interesting in tonight's flock of patrons. Wait, did that boost? It did boost. I can't do anything with the Ascari tonight, apparently. Like, there's nothing for me to get for them. I left the bar's quiet ambience, returning to the street. Let's visit the beach house. I had my driver take me to Santa Monica, deciding to stop by Randall's place. Randall's probably not here again. The usual group was chatting and laughing inside, although it seemed more crowded than last time. Over on one side of the room, several vampires were clustered in the air. Oh no, I've forgotten how to say her name. Hokina? Oh, fuck, I can't remember. Who was wildly gesticulating with a pistol in her hand. I also noticed Randall off in another corner. Oh, he is there. Surrounded by a small sea of Mavar, but when our eyes met, he waved to me enthusiastically. I'll go up to Joaquina. I can't remember. As I made my way towards Joaquina, I heard her husky, cheerful voice rising over the room's chatter. And I know y'all may not believe me, but I'd get him every time. Bang bang, your old Hokita, I can't remember, Hokina, I can't remember, I'm sorry, shot those smokes right out of their mouths as they rode by on their horses. Oh lordy, their faces. The group around her broke into delighted laughter, and she beamed at them like a happy grandmother watching over her brood. Now, it's been a long time since I've used this here pistol, but I'm telling you, Oh, why hello, Valkii. She grinned at me when I walked up, wiggling her eyebrows. What perfect timing you've got. This sharpshooting lady was just about to show off her stuff. You see those ugly little troll dolls stacked over there? Why, I bet you $5 whole that I can hit that yellow haired one blindfolded. You're on. Ooh, you're gonna be regretting that, Valkii. You just watch me. We didn't have any blindfolds lying around, so somebody helpfully grabbed a dish towel and wrapped it around Joaquina's head. Everyone watched in silence as she raised the pistol, taking aim at the unfortunate troll doll. I missed. A soft collective sigh of awe came from the Mavar around us. What? I didn't get it? Yanking the towel off her head, Joaquina squinted at the dolls, where her aim had landed a few inches to the left. Oh hell, that sneaky little shit moved, I swear it. She spit at the ground with a huff, giving the floorboards a kick to add insult to injury. Well, a deal's a deal. Here you are, child. Let it not be said I don't keep my word. With a sigh, Joaquina reached in her pocket and pulled out a small scrap of paper, stuffing it into my hand. $5 off your next order of 3 large pizzas at Pete's Pizza Parlor, it read, showing a large man's greasy face next to an enormous pepperoni pizza. Thanks, I'll keep it as a memento of you, Joaquina. Joaquina? Well, isn't that just the sweetest thing? You keep that coupon safe, Valkii. Alright, my darlings, now which one of you is going to make your old lady a drink? These stories aren't telling themselves, and my whistle needs some wetting. With that, the group dissolved back into laughter, and someone scurried off to the fridge to pour some blood into a glass. I left them to Joaquina's storytelling, wondering if those poor troll dolls would end up surviving the night. I will talk to Randall, I just want to look at my stats. I'm obsessed with looking at my stats. See, I'm like super in with the Mavar, it's really not hard. Talk to Randall, why not? As I approached Randall and his group, he murmured something quickly to them, then slipped out of the circle. Hey Valkii, couldn't stay away from us, huh? You having a rough time up in Queen Bitch's tower, or is there just a beach bum inside you dying to come out? A little of column A and B, probably. Ha, poor Valkii, the closet beach bum. Just about breaks my heart. He snickered softly, shaking his head. Something I can do for you then? Anything you want to ask me? Could you tell me about the Mavar? Well, we probably have some kind of deep, complicated history that I don't know jack shit about. We do get around though, medieval factions, secret societies, fighting rings, mafia gangs. A lot of what you've read about in textbooks probably had Mavar involved. Somewhere. He shrugged, his gaze briefly drifting around the living room. As society changes, so do we. So do all vampires. The big difference between us and the rest is, well, beyond enhanced senses and strength and shit, that we're usually always part of a group. Lone Mavar, they're pretty rare. Couldn't really tell you why. Instinct, I guess. A need to be a part of something bigger. Sorry kid, that's about all I got. How do you cope with being a vampire? Cope? You make it sound like it's a shitty life. Ever since I became a vampire, I've never looked back. Best thing that ever happened to me. So I don't cope, I try to enjoy every night. Do you think there's an ideal ruling system for vampires? Yeah, where everybody rules themselves. Of course you're gonna have shitty people doing shitty things, but if they step on someone's toes and there's no law against delivering justice, things work out. Again, just wrong. Because I've said this before, I think I only said this one in the Heath one, but that's wrong because if anyone defines their own justice, then that means like someone could literally step on someone's toe accidentally and then they're like, I need justice, and kill them and say, well, I'm just going off of my own sense of justice. I don't know, I just don't think it's a good idea. We're vampires, we've all got ways to survive. Somebody can't handle the night, that's not my problem. That's a pretty harsh outlook, but it could work. Hey, it works for animals, and we're just animals with bigger brains. Well, some of us have bigger brains. Just because there are more people kept alive doesn't mean it's a better society, just a bigger one. Yes, we are animals, but... I mean, humans even. But... we're not at the same time. You know, like, we do have big brains. That's the whole point, that's kind of what separates us. Kind of, there's more to it than that, I guess. Randall shrugged, grimacing briefly. Why do you live on a beach? Isn't it sunny? It's not as bad as you think, actually. I mean, you're not going to catch me getting a tan or anything, and I've got some good shades in my room. But I like being near the ocean. It's big and it doesn't give a fuck. How can you get more inspiring than that? Nah, but more seriously. This place is far enough from Hollywood and downtown LA that the Yaskari don't really fuck with us. I want the clan to be able to hang out anywhere in the city, but hey, better to reign in hell than rule in heaven, right? Not that I'd call Hollywood heaven, though. Great, about something else. What do you think of Marcus? I haven't known him that long, but I've always looked up to the guy. He just doesn't give a fuck. Well, I guess he sells fucks at his shop, but that's a different story. He's helped me out before too. Never really know why he does a lot of the shit he does, but I don't know. I just like having him around. Do you know how old he is? Oh, you know, he never told me. I figured he'd be a few 100 years old, maybe more, but it's pretty hard to pin him down. Let me know if you ever figure it out. You and Heath. He's everything I hate wrapped up in one baby-faced little package. Weak, can't think for himself, drools over his leader, does everything she asks. You know, these days I barely even see him as a person. Do you really hate Charisse that much? I hate what she stands for, the fact that she thinks her leadership is the only thing keeping LA's coven from eating itself alive. It pisses me off that she acts like vampires have to be protected from themselves, because she just doesn't understand that we're not human anymore. Queen bitch herself? No, I don't hate her. But I sure as fuck won't be going golfing with her anytime soon, you can count on that. Do you know Alusha? Oh, that girl? Yeah, she's pretty cool. We're not close or anything, but for a human, she actually kicks ass. True. Okay, apparently can't ask anything about that. Okay. I'll ring you up soon if anything interesting happens. These days, seems like there's always some kind of excitement. Take care until then, Valkii. With a gentle smile, Randall nodded at me once, then turned to rejoin the conversation he'd left earlier. Slipping out of the beach house, I made my way back across the sand. Just go back to my room. Time had passed quickly and the night was already almost over. Time to head back. If you want more about Marcus, watch the video. It had been a fairly quiet night, at least in contrast to my earlier adventures, though I had a feeling the reprieve wouldn't last. I would do more stuff, but I'm reading this stuff for like the 1000th time, it feels like. When I returned to the hotel, I expected Charisse to be in the meeting room like before. Instead, the clerk at the front desk handed me a note when I walked in, and I will see you in the next one.